Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I always try to have my chin up, chest out, and I always watch for the shoe.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss The Fault in Our Stars, which released in 2014. Based on the book by John Green, written by Scott Neustadter and Michael Webber, and directed by Josh Boone. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Hazel Grace Lancaster, a girl who's been suffering with a terminal illness since she was about 9 years old. Now at the age of 19, her parents have made her go to a support group to try to help her get over her depressive mentality. While there, she meets Augustus Waters, and the two of them head out into the world looking for life, love, and loss, and some tears along the way.
Perhaps okay will be our always.
So man, I remember when this film came out, 10 years ago now.
Yep, 10 years.
And it's a film that I didn't think I would ever watch again. I don't know what convinced me to actually watch it 10 years ago.
Yeah, I can think of a reason.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't tend to watch teen romance films.
No.
I think there was another film with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I think it was called 50-50.
Oh, yes,
at the time.
yes,
And I think I
yes.
actually double billed this one with that.
Oh, Jesus,
I think,
that's a weekend.
Yeah, right. It was very sad. It was a very sad
Very
weekend.
sad.
And but honestly, this one though lingered with me a little bit longer until years passed, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. So I was very surprised to see this one crop up on the list, and straight away I was like, "Oh man, I need to mentally prepare myself if I'm going to do this again."
Yes. Yeah, I was exactly the same. I remember it coming out. I remember seeing the trailer on TV. I remember I think it's Charlie XCX, who's a singer. Her song was like all over the trailer. I gave it a bit of a wiki at the time, and I said to myself, you know what? I'm good. The only reason I'd probably watch this movie is if the wife turned to me and said, hey, do you want to watch this movie? And I'd be like, is it that movie about those two people that have got terminal illnesses? Yeah. No, I don't want. So when I say I kind of know, maybe there's reason, there might be a female influence at the same time. But yeah, like, damn, man, that and 50-50 at the same time. When you watch Lorenzo's Oil as well, just to finish all three of them.
I'll just travel back in time and go do that now. I might not be here now. I'm going to change history.
But that's it. Like, as soon as I saw it, like I said, come up on the list, I was like, Jesus, we've gone through some real heart-wrenching, hurtful movies. Usually horrors.
Yeah.
Violent horror movies. And then you get Fault in Our Stars.
Which is a PG movie.
Yeah.
But it hits harder than some others.
Yeah.
Now, I think that might come down to the guy who wrote the book that obviously the film is based on, who has real hand experience working in a children's hospice. So he's collected or witnessed and been around a lot of the subject matter that he's then put into the book,
totally.
which was pretty huge when it came out. A lot of people talked about the book, and then it wasn't long until it was adapted into a film.
Yeah.
And I have to say the two actors in it as well, that obviously become lovers. It's a romance, so
yeah.
But they were in a film that came out the same year called Divergent, in which they were both brother and sister.
Yes.
So it's just like, I'm kind of glad I didn't see Divergent, because it would have made this film really weird.
Yeah, really confusing. Imagine being a teenager going, oh, I love these two, I'm going to go watch it. Like, I wrote that in the notes that they were both in Divergent, and that's got like 3 movies.
Yeah.
And I think the wife has gone and watched them and says they're all right, kind of Hunger Game-ish. I think another bunch of movies based on books.
Yeah.
As well. But following Shailene Woodley, who plays Hazel Grace Lancaster, I mean, we start with her giving her narration at the start of the movie. She's just kind of lying down, I think, in a field somewhere, looking up the sky, and you get quick flashes of certain things happening, and you don't realize until later on in the movie that these are events that you're actually seeing. So it's all told from her point of view. And immediately I was close to like, nah, I'm not watching this, because I'm going to cry like hell if this girl. She was a absolute fabulous actress. I mean, she
Agreed.
spends the entirety of this movie at least with this oxygen tube around her face, by her nose, carrying the oxygen canister. And so you really feel like she has given her all to this character that she's portraying. And she is no, I wouldn't say battling, but she is kind of in a bit of a conflict with her mum, played by Laura Dern, who's obviously just one of the most world's fabulous fucking actresses
Hell
out
yeah.
there. And mum thinks Hazel is getting overly
Depressed.
and
Yeah.
down constantly.
Well, it's interesting because like this film takes obviously with the whole film is subject. The backdrop is the cancer and terminal illness and getting ready, I suppose, to accept that you're going to die.
Yeah.
And with it happening to young people, it's kind of devastating, and so it's
Yeah,
playing
yeah.
on your human, I guess, relatability to these characters. Watching the film, you get drawn in, and it was I found it really compelling. Like I paused the film on this rewatch at like the 15-minute mark, and I was like,
Oh, nice.
this film's got its hooks in really, really well.
Yes.
And I think it came down to great writing. Even though I find narration in films can sometimes be easy kind of cheat. It works when Hazel is literally narrating and telling her backstory. She's recounting everything that happened to get to where she was at the beginning, and then like how she's dealing with things. And so I like that the film is not going, okay, you've just found out you've got cancer, and then you go through the denial, then you go through acceptance.
Yeah.
We're at this like a later stage of it, so it's not. I mean, she says she's not sugarcoating the story, even though it does in places.
Yeah.
I like that the film sort of picks up where it does, where she is now kind of, she's kind of sad and depressed, and she's being forced to go into these support groups.
Yeah, I thought it worked really well as well. That, like, as I watched the film, I kind of put my mind in a teenager's kind of perspective. I mean, it's very easy for me. But, like, at the same time, from a book's perspective, like you said, so this kind of whole narration thing from her is kind of like the prologue before we get into the meat of the first chapter and all that kind of stuff. And like Gary said, Laura Dern's character has said, like, right, we're going to put you towards these support groups. We accept that you say you're not depressed, but your negative outlook on life is kind of getting us worried. And I like that Hazel's character wasn't immediately just like, oh, fuck you all, you're not the one dying, lashing out, being aggressive. She was very subdued, but in her own way, she knew death was coming, and so it was a case of waiting around for it. That was what was depressing her. She was still happy in life. She had this really good book that she was reading. She liked going out and mingling with other people, but it was just watching the days tick down, tick down. When they got to the support group, and you've got that leader, the religious guy who like lives with his mum and has knitted this giant Jesus quilt, I fucking died with laughter.
Oh no. Yeah, I mean, part of me was expecting Tyler Durden to just blink into existence. I was like, no.
A big black cock.
Slide. But yeah, she's like, he got testicular cancer, and but I won't spare you the details, but then I'll give you the details anyway. And we get this whole backstory about him. Now apparently the guy that played that is also an actual cancer survivor as well.
Right, nice.
But I did like his warmth and his energy, and I've never been to a support group like this, but it seemed like a good place to go.
Yeah, totally. I got behind him just for being fun, because it was the way that, obviously, like you said, Hazel's looking at him like, oh god, he's over the top.
Yeah, she
He's
just
got his
can't wait to get
guitar
out.
She just wants to get out. But you actually want her there too.
I mean, for me, it's also obviously, when you're getting closer to death, you might become a little bit more religious. I don't know, but it is the whole Jesus loves you, Jesus is with you kind of thing, and it's just like, all right, it's a bit too much for me watching.
Yeah.
Not for the characters that are there. It's fine. But yeah, she doesn't get on very well at this meeting. But then she is kind of convinced or pressured to go a second time. And we get this wonderful moment where Laura Dern's mum is in the car, and she's like, "No, I've got errands to do. I'm not going to sit here and wait until you're finished."
And you're like, "Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are,
mum."
Yeah, you are. But this is where she inadvertently or accidentally walks into Gus.
Yeah.
And we have that wonderful spark of chemistry instantly.
Oh man, yeah.
There's a chemistry, there's a connection there right away, and she's watching him as he then walks into the door, as he walks off around the corner, and she's like, okay. But then Then the creepy weirdness started to happen. Now, and maybe it's just the way that he does it, but it's usually...
Or maybe you've just watched a little bit too much dark stuff that you can't just see.
Right, a serial killer just waiting.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've watched far too much True Detective. As soon as somebody starts staring, you're like, serial killer.
Yeah.
Me, I've seen...
Columbo's out the door. He's waiting for him to come out.
I've seen enough that the guy playing Augustus, Ansel, Elgort, he was literally doing his "I've fallen in love with you"
instantly.
face,
Yeah.
I mean, and the film made it easy that there wasn't really anybody else there that Gus would be attracted to. Hazel was the beacon in the light of this darkness. He's actually gone there because of his friend Isaac, and Isaac is going to lose his eye, possibly both his eyes, and go blind from cancer. And Gus has just come with him to the support group. And I love the fact that immediately I was just like, oh, Gus is just the buddy. And then when he stood up and he showed his metal leg, I was like, oh, wow, now you've got me, movie. Both Hazel and Gus have this instant connection, something to talk about. Not that Hazel wants to, and not that I feel Gus is going to force the situation. And it's like when they actually go outside and they start talking.
Yeah.
That warmed me up as well, because he pulls out that cigarette and he sticks it in his mouth, and she starts giving him grief and telling him off because, oh my God, I can't believe you're actually doing the thing that's obviously trying to kill you. And she really gives him a talking down to. And he goes, it's only deadly if I light it. And I was like, oh.
Yeah. He's doing the whole metaphor thing for his cancer, which is just like, so I can put the cancer in my mouth, as long as I don't light it, it won't kill me. And so it's his way of saying I'm mentally battling whatever cancer I have.
Totally. So, yeah, he's cool. He's a college kid. He's learned and all that kind of stuff.
It's a metaphor, see? You put the thing that does the killing right between your teeth, but you never give it the power to kill you. A metaphor.
And so Mum's just like, oh, okay, I'll off you go with a strange boy.
yeah.
And and then which follows is really the slow blossoming of their romance, I suppose. And even though Hazel's the one who seems reluctant, but even though they have they have this conversation, they share some books, they talk about movies, talk about music.
Yeah.
But then there's the silence. Then there's the at-home waiting, where she is literally, even though she's not accepted that the fact that she's fallen for him is the fact that we have these constant zoom-ins on her phone that's not got any messages or responses or anything. I'm just like, okay, it's getting a little bit tropey.
It is, but as I said, I was seeing it from the perspective of a teenager. So a 13, 14, 15-year-old newbie going to the cinema, seeing Fault for Our Stars for the first time because it's based on a book. School's making you read it. Maybe other friends in school have seen it. This is what they do, I mean, sorry, dude, but I just want to go back to the part where Gus takes Hazel to see his parents. And immediately, now all I've got is fucking serial killer parents in my head. Him bringing them in there, clean the dishes. I'm like, how many people has he brought back here?
Thanks, martyrs.
Yeah. I mean, I did like that little sequence where they're in the basement and she talks about this book, An Imperial Affliction. I've never read it. I should give it a wiki.
It doesn't exist.
Oh, doesn't it? Oh, it's a fake book? Oh, of course it does. And he mentions that he will read it, but she has to read one of his books. And he picks up I think it's a Counter-Strike book based on PC gaming and stuff like that. And she's obviously shook by it. But he gives her the book, and she does try to get into it so they can have something to talk about. And this whole quiet phase, there's a part of me, like I said, there was a part of me that was thinking, ooh, Gus isn't bothering to call back. Mm-hmm. He's dropped the book. He's decided he's going to go off and speak to his ex or something like that. There was a part of me. It's
funny you should mention that, actually, because he does have an ex-girlfriend in the book that's just not even mentioned or brought up in the film.
No.
Yeah.
Better. You didn't need that conflict.
I guess, it just adds... there would have been some more character building for Gus, I suppose. But yeah, the film's already over 2 hours, and they've really taken the core elements.
That is, and I suppose they've taken that part and they've focused that onto Isaac, because we find out that Isaac's got this girlfriend and that they're going to be together for... Always.
Man, it's the fact that they're right outside this church, and he's there like,
Yes,
it's like, Jesus, man.
Like, calm down, dude. You're only losing your eyesight,
gotta be hurting her boob.
But we start getting the messages coming in from Gus. He starts immediately messaging Hazel and questioning the end of the book, and she's immediately just...
She lights up, doesn't she? Just like she's just been given a new lease of life, and she's excitedly texting back at the dinner table, and the parents are like, "Are you talking to some boy?"
Yeah. Well, Laura Dern's really happy about it. She's just like,
of course, I know.
Go off, do whatever.
It's great. And then she does get invited round there to talk because he calls her up and he's like, "Look, I need you to help deal. I don't want to talk to you about this, but I also need to deal with Isaac, who's going mental at the moment."
Yeah, his girlfriend's dumped him, and he's going to lose his eyesight, and we just don't know what to do. And so she tries to kind of talk to him down. But I did like the fact that obviously he's just like, "Look, take my trophies. Smash my trophies up. It'll make you feel
need to
better.
break something.
You need to break something." And he just lets his friend break this stuff in the background while, Hazel and Gus are talking about this book. And we start to find out that, as Gary's pointed out, the book isn't real, but it was written by Peter Van Houten, who is played, as we find out later on in the movie, by Willem Dafoe. Fucking absolutely outstanding actor again. I mean, Jesus Christ, movie. What am I supposed to do with this shit?
Yeah. But they're discussing how the book kind of... It doesn't have an ending. It ends mid-sentence, like ... and that is the end. And she's explained that she's written hundreds of letters to him to ask, like, what does happen at the end. Obviously, the character that the book is based on obviously died mid-sentence, which is to reflect then in the story. But obviously, there's other people in that world. So obviously, when you die, everyone else still is still living. And so, but what happens to their stories? And so she's kind of wanting some closure on that, but not getting any. And so that's what they're really talking about. And that would then lead on to Gus then going, I'll if your handwritten letters aren't getting there, I'll send an email. And then actually get a response. I
really tried not to get behind Gus as much as the movie was making me get behind it. But
he's so
he
constantly optimistic and happy.
He just wants to do everything for Hazel to be happy as well. Yeah. So it's just like...
Well, he explains to her the reason why he didn't get back to her so soon was because he wanted to finish the book so that he could talk to her about it.
Yes. And he says to her, like, well, why don't you... I think it's Make-A-Wish, I think they're talking about. He says, well, why don't you just use your one-time wish and travel to Amsterdam? And she goes, oh, well, actually, I used it to go to Disneyland. And he's like, what? You wasted it on Disneyland? She was like, I was 13 years old. Give me a break. And it's a lovely little moment. And so then Gus goes out of his way to use his Make-A-Wish wish to get them to be able to go to Amsterdam, Hazel and himself. Unfortunately, Hazel has a couple of doctor's appointments. They're unsure about if she's able to travel, and then she happens to have, I feel like it's a reaction in the middle of the night.
Her lungs filled up with fluid.
Her lungs
it is. I had to take a moment. Now, even though like the film is hugely dramatizing the moment, of course, with this extended slow-mo. And I was like, man, just like looking at Laura Dern's panic-stricken face in slow motion, I was like, Niagara Falls.
or Inland Empire all over again.
Right? But yeah, it was watching Dad scoop her up and into the car and then into the hospital and then on the gurney. The fact that she's fetal position and she's being wheeled away. It's just like, oh man, it crushes your heart and your soul to watch it happen. But yeah, it's devastating. Of course, she's just devastated because then she has meetings with the doctors and they're like, look, you're stage 4. You cannot get on a plane. They don't, they don't have doctors that can treat you over there. She's like, well, they don't have cancer in Amsterdam. It's like, well, actually, they probably do. But yeah, it was like, well, you're a unique condition. It's a unique case of cancer and they won't know specifics. And it's like, well, I'll take somebody that knows, my condition. Mom, you coming with me?
Yeah. And it's this whole back and forth because there is a bit of cancellation for a little bit. But then it turns out that Laura Dern and Dad have managed to sort out the tickets and they're still taking her over to Amsterdam and they're still taking Gus. And so you're really positive. You're like, oh my God. But I mean, I like the way that this movie was structured like that because for the first hour, it was literally the build-up of the relationship between Gus and Hazel and then wanting to get to Amsterdam. And then the second hour was like a fucking kick in the teeth Like Shawn Michaels just kept giving me sweet chin music over and over again. And I tried to be positive, but it's like they land at Amsterdam. They're so happy. They're going out for a really the romantic meal at the restaurant was amazing.
Yeah. I love the waiter. You know, he drops the film's title almost pretty much. Like the stars. The champagne tastes like the stars.
Yeah.
It was really good because obviously the whole decoration in there was really nice.
Yeah, the meal's being paid for as well. You know, and you're seeing the build up, the culmination of the relationship of Gus and Hazel, and so like at this point you know it's going to push to the next stage, and it ultimately does, where they end up going back to the hotel room to have sex, because it turns out Gus is a virgin, and they make this whole, you know, Hazel's just like, what do you mean you're a virgin? You know, you're such a strapping guy and stuff. And he's like, guys with one leg, you know, if they're in a circle, that's me. Nobody wants to sleep with a one-legged guy. But I liked how the movie had flashed that sequence at the moment at the beginning, where they walked through the door, and so you saw that shot as they got together, and so that reminds you of the beginning, and it reminds you that as much as you know it's going to be heartwarming and lovely, some bad shit's going to happen. They're in bed together, and she takes out her nose thing, but she can't breathe for very long, so you got to put it in again. And it was so well filmed, like I said, from a teenager's perspective. You know, it was sexual, but not sexual. You know,
it was intimate, and it was romantic, and it was gentle and nice, and all the good things.
All
really.
the good things. The next morning they woke up together, they had breakfast, they had a bit of a giggle with
Mum's like, so what did you do in the afternoon? Oh, we went for a walk.
She's like, we're in Amsterdam, you smoke. I was in a restaurant smoking a shit. You know? I know what you two got up to. But the two of them make their way to Van Houten's house, and at this part was I was really surprised about how well and how good this sequence was. Because they walk in, they realise they're walking into the home of a madman.
Right. It's the fact that you see all the bottles everywhere, all of the fan mail all over the floor, and it's just like, how many of those were Hazel's? And then we find out that
I didn't think of that. It could have been all of them.
Right. We find out that Willem Dafoe's character is an absolute douche, like an absolute prick of a person. But that's, I mean, he's self-imposed exiled, you know? He's just like, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to know people, I'm not writing any more books, I don't care, I've got my money, I've got my booze, just fuck off and let me drink and die. And so that's essentially it. But so we find out that literally, like, his secretary, his assistant, I don't know.
His wife, his girl, just this woman.
This slave. She's just like, refill. Play this music, do that. We find out that she's the one who basically was on the correspondence of the emails and set Gus and Hazel up essentially for a huge fail here when they find out that he is such an asshole who will not answer their questions, and in turn just puts on some Swedish hip-hop.
I mean, I don't know if she meant for them to fail. I think she actually wanted to help them out and put them out.
No, but she was hoping that it would help him out.
Yeah. But Willem Dafoe, like, he's so good, but he's such a freaking asshole. At this point, you're hating him. You're hating him so much that when Hazel stands up and starts swearing at him, you're like, oh, shit. You know, because she's already just convinced Gus to calm down because Gus is ready to lay him out. But then she's overwhelmed with this.
But we feel that too, because when the moment we first meet Hazel, she's reading that book. It's all she thinks about, talks about. It's what's helped her and Gus bond. And so we kind of want her to get a resolution. Because we care for her.
We want a happy ending.
And so to see her so badly treated, where he starts spouting weird philosophies at them, and it's just like, dude, just do something. Like, say something.
He hasn't got anything. That's why he's got no ending. And I got that the author had nothing, but he's still trying to be smart. He's still, in a way, trying to be better than everybody else because they've come to worship at his feet with his book. But they end up storming out. And
it's at this point the secretary, I guess, or the maid comes running after them going, I'm really sorry, I really thought that having you here would help him out and help you out, and do you want to go sightseeing?
Let's go.
I'd be like, hell no, like, after, like, we just flown all the way over here, you treated us like this. It's like a right setup and fail. But she takes them to the Anne Frank museum, the Anne Frank house, and we have this like, I mean, you feel this sequence, like, you look at those stairs and you're just like, nah. And then you're seeing Hazel just like persevering and trying to get through it. And you're reminded of the conversation the dad had to Gus earlier. Just like, look, Hazel is determined and but she's not physically capable, and
She will
she's
keep
going to see
pushing
you do
herself,
it, and she's
yeah.
going to push to catch up. So please be mindful of that. And then we
Yeah.
see her going up these stairs, dragging the oxygen tank with her, and then the next set of stairs, and then the ladder. But she gets to the top, and it's a really nice moment, because this is actually before they actually go back to the hotel. This is the moment where they share their first kiss.
Oh, yes,
and
yes.
it is a little bit soppy. But at the same time, it's been building for so long.
It has, yeah.
You know, and now, again, the film, like Hazel at the beginning says, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but this sequence, as much as like we're kind of cheering for this moment to happen, you don't really see, you know, two people kissing in public and then the public applauding. Maybe in Amsterdam they do.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they do there either.
I mean,
It was
when you're
just
that
very-
high up and all the smoke's coming.
Right, maybe, yeah. Way. But yeah, it just felt a little bit movie-like, and I was
Yeah.
it was kind of ruined a really nice moment. But yeah, then they go back and have dinner and
And
sex.
sex and all
Yeah.
that. I mean, I really like that sequence as well, because as much as we're wanting Hazel to take care of herself, you've got this whole museum around you of this little girl, Anne Frank, who obviously was persecuted and obviously tried to keep her... She tried to keep as positive as she could in her life. So in my mind, I'm looking at it from Hazel. Like,
Yeah.
I can't be weak. You know, when there's other people who are more able-bodied, who went through worse things, I've got to keep going. And you don't want Hazel to push herself that badly to get up the stairs, but you do. So then I suppose the clap at the top was kind of a surrogate kind of celebration for her. You know, you've done well, you've made it up. Now you've got to get back down.
We'll cut that out of the film then.
Yeah, we'll cut that out of the film. And yeah, like I said, my mistake. I missed the time, the whole sexual thing. They go back and they have sex, and Laura Dern's like, "Woohoo! I was in the cafe all day yesterday."
It's a bit of trivia for you.
Okay.
Is that only Shailene, Woodley and Ansel Elgort actually went to Amsterdam.
Oh, wow.
Laura Dern and Willem Dafoe were not in Amsterdam. They literally built they asked for permission to film in the Anne Frank house, and they said no. So they just built a full-size replica instead.
Wow.
Wow, but all of the scenes, obviously, with the two of them walking around, it's funny because, like, they're at dinner and they're like, hey, Laura Dern, like, will you just leave us alone for a minute because we want to go and talk? And it's like, it's because they need to go around Amsterdam and Laura Dern's not there.
That's it. She does. She goes, "Oh, I've got things to do," and she just fucks off.
That's why.
I can't think about the misery, but about the beauty that still remains. Try to recapture the happiness within yourself.
But yeah, there is something else I just want to bring up that helped make me sort of really like these two even more.
Yeah.
Is that earlier on in the film, like near the beginning, Hazel's flipping through and she's watching some X-Files.
Yeah.
When she's hanging out with Gus later, they're watching Buffy season 2
yeah.
episode Surprise.
Yes.
And then later on the plane, they're watching and bonding over Aliens. And I'm
Aliens.
like, oh man, I love these two.
I couldn't help get with that as well. When I saw the Buffy clip come up, I was just like, oh, movie. That's not... You could have had any other sequence with Buffy and Angel. You got the one where he gets his soul back.
Right.
And then when you watch Ripley come out, I was like, oh, Gus has got some good choice. Imagine, like, it would have made it better if he was watching Evil Dead 2 or something for a laugh. But they return back to America, and the movie decided to kick me in the teeth again by pointing out that Gus, his cancer has returned. And we find out from him that actually he's had it for a little while. He actually had it at the point where Hazel went into hospital, and he was going to talk to her about it then, but he couldn't. And if you look back on the sequences in the hospital, like I said, you had that moment with Gus and Hazel's dad, and they were talking, and he kind of, and it wasn't like he pushed him away, but he was more like, look, you know, you can't be here for the moment because she's really ill, blah, blah, blah. There's another sequence later on that kind of Hazel goes through with Gus's mum. I'm trying to knock the ball up here.
I know, man. It's really emotional, isn't it? Like
the whole last fucking 30, 40 minutes was just watching Gus go from this positive, bubbly, you know, larger-than-life character to now deteriorating and having to go through chemotherapy and trying his best to keep positive, but he can't. It's the way the movie's going to go. He's the one that's going to die. And I thought that was really surprising when I first found out about it, because the movie plays it like Hazel could be the one that could die at any point. She even says to him at one point, "We can't be together in a relationship because I'm like a live hand grenade. I could go off at any point and I'm just going to wreck everybody's life around me." And it's him. And you're like, "Oh my God, Hazel!
Yeah.
You're going to make Laura Dern cry."
Can make all of us cry. Damn. Well,
Yeah.
there is at least one sort of uplifting sequence where Isaac now has had both of his eyes removed.
Yes.
He's wearing these glasses. He can't really see his eyes. And they're going to go for a little bit of an egging at his ex-girlfriend's house.
Or then they go do the eulogy first, don't they? They
Yeah,
practice
that's
Gus's eulogy. And
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a little cool moment. But yeah, the
Because Gus
eggings.
was just like, yeah, I'm not going to see my funeral. I'll try to come back as a ghost. But, at least if I can just have this moment. Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought that I could actually do that for mine, actually. turn up like a couple of days early.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get the eggs out and the
Yeah.
mum comes out of the house, don't they? And Gus kind of explains the entire situation to the mum.
Look, we've got 4 eyes, fucking 5 legs, and 4.5 lungs.
Yeah.
We're not going to be any bother. We're just going to egg your daughter's car.
And it's nothing to do with you, but your daughter has this great injustice. And I think the mum kind of just understood.
I think she was just confused and went, I'm going to go back inside now and call the cops.
Just let you egg the car.
There was a couple of goofs, I guess, I spotted in the film.
Okay, yeah.
One of them right here.
Yeah.
And that is when I think when the mum comes out and they kind of try to hide the eggs or something.
Yeah.
Isaac throws one of the eggs beside him or behind him.
Right.
That egg bounces. I was like, they ain't no eggs.
Hey, no.
It was bouncing balls or something. But anyway,
Maybe it's soft boiled.
another goof, I suppose.
Okay.
When there's an important line, again, it gets repeated a couple of times, and that is, pain demands to be felt.
Oh, yes.
She's literally got it, highlighted in her
It's
book.
from her, in
Yes.
the Affliction book.
But
yeah.
if you look, Paul, screen grab this image, Ian, when you're
Yeah.
editing, right?
Okay, sorry.
On the left side of the page, count how many twos there are. Just there's 6 twos in the sentence. I was like, my brain just looked at it. I was like, I couldn't focus on what I was supposed to be looking at. I was like, what? Who wrote this book? I was William Defoe. No wonder he never finished it. Fucking pissed out of his face.
So Hazel and Gus decide to go out for, I think it's one last picnic. They return back to the park that they'd previously gone to in the middle of the movie, which has got some bones.
funny
that people
bones.
jumping all over. Yeah, the funny bones in the park. And then obviously it's 8 days later after that, he passes away.
Oh man, it killed me, crushed me watching that sequence. It's the moment that Hazel's laying in bed and she gets woken up, and it's her phone is in front of her, but it's the house phone that's ringing, and so you just know, and you can hear the footsteps coming up the stairs, and she's already gone. She knows what the message is before it gets to her, and it will tear your soul out. It's crushing. It really is crushing.
Yeah, and it's the continuing as well, because they have to go to the funeral. They have to see the coffin go in, her putting the box, the cigarettes on top, and she's like, "It's okay, I'm his girlfriend," and you're just, I don't want to say I was happy. It definitely wasn't a happy fucking ending, no fucking way. But it was, in a way, it was weird closure for me and the Hazel character, because right from the beginning of the movie, she'd wanted to avoid this whole thing. I wanted to avoid this whole thing as well. But she had been broken down and persecuted and whatnot from Gus, and they'd gone out the way and they'd enjoyed life, and I'd felt good and everything had been a high and stuff like that. And then he's been taken away, and she needs to just finish everything. She needs to put the coffin in the ground. She needs to just try to carry on with her life. And William Defoe fucking turns up. And I'm like, what is he doing? No way, what is he doing here? I kind of knew what he was doing there, because I would have the same idea. He'd only ever turn up if he had something to give to Hazel, and it would have been something that Gus had arranged, because deep down inside, Peter Van Houten knows he was a bit of a dick, and he doesn't really want to be a bit of a dick, because that's not what he wants. And so he kind of gets in the car with Hazel at the end of the funeral to talk to her, and she's really upset.
Well, no shit.
She's fucking like,
Get out of my car,
get
Willem
out of my
Dafoe.
car. But he kind of explains to her there that the reason why the book finished the way it was is because he based it on the story of his daughter, I think it was,
That's right.
who was dying of leukemia. And so I got it. Like, I kind of understood when they were interviewing him in Amsterdam that the reason why the book had ended like that was because he had nothing more to write, nothing more to give. He'd said enough. He'd finished. And so, in a way, he was kind of right that Hazel was in the wrong to come and demand an ending for something that he was unwilling to give. But then he was in the wrong for treating her that way. And so him trying to justify it here in the car by saying, look, I know these characters continue. Because we're seeing it in the movie as well. I know these characters continue, but I ended it the way it was here. And he hands her this piece of paper. And, oh my God, luckily she didn't rip it up.
Right. Yeah, because even though, she drives off and leaves him on the road, we find out, I think, when she talks to Isaac later, and Isaac's
does,
like,
yeah.
did you not know that after you go back from Amsterdam, Gus was messaging back and forth?
Yeah.
And that message, that letter was for you.
Yeah.
And so, we see her getting out the letter and reading it, and oh my God, Niagara Falls again.
Oh my God, no.
I don't want to ask you for any favors, but if you have the time, and from what I saw you have plenty, please fix this for me. It's a eulogy for Hazel.
It's Gus's eulogy he had written to just in case Hazel would pass before him, but he wasn't able to work it out, so he'd sent it to Peter Van Houten to help
word
him
it up a bit.
Word it up. And, oh my God, man. Like the fun sequence of Terminator 2 all over again. It's
Right.
like I'm not crying. I'm not crying. I'm not crying. They're crying.
No,
They're
yeah.
crying. But yeah, so Hazel reads the letter and she's really heartfelt and she lays down on the field and the movie basically ends where it started.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Ian, do you have any favourite or memorable scenes?
I do. I have a few. I mean, I love the sequence where Isaac was all upset about him and his girlfriend breaking up, and Gus is trying to do his best to be as supportive as a friend as they could. I can't remember. Were they playing Halo?
I think it was a Halo ODST was on the side for sure.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to play shoot 'em ups, but Gus is just like, no, we need to help you get over this. And so then they get him to break the trophies, and he's in the background breaking all these trophies, and he's just sounding like, I'll help you clean these up after, thank you. And it was just so good because the film's focusing on Hazel and Gus talking about this book because of sort of the plot. But Isaac, the side character who's in the background, I really felt for him, and even so much more when they get to the egg throwing sequence,
Right.
And they're throwing the eggs at the car. I'm like, oh my God, Hazel and Gus are just so nice, and they're such nice people. They're so nice to Isaac. I absolutely loved Willem Dafoe playing Peter Van Houten. He was absolutely horrible as this writer, and kind of what you would consider, if you didn't count cancer, I suppose, you would consider Willem Dafoe to be the film's villain. He was absolutely horrible, but justified. I got it. There's a fine line between genius and madness. He'd written a book about his daughter dying, which actually isn't a real book, but it makes you question everything that happens. And as a fan of literature, sometimes you want to know what happens to the characters as they go off after people die. Sometimes people don't have too much more to give.
It's true.
They go out too much. I loved Gus's kind of, what's the point? I'm in love with you at the restaurant. I'm just going to blurt it all out to you right here, right now. And Hazel, the actress playing Hazel did her absolute best all the way through the movie to just keep him at arm's length. But if I was a young teenage girl, I wouldn't be able to keep him at arm's length for very long. Like he was really trying. He was really in love with her, even though some people think he was a red flagging psychopath.
I'm just saying there were some alarm bells, but, gotta be careful.
Yeah, and I suppose my last favourite scene, I mean, I really did enjoy the entirety of the movie, but I think my favourite sequence, last favourite scene, even though it really shouldn't be, was that phone call. The film's, kind of just culminates in this moment where Laura Dern comes running up the stairs and delivers this message, and like I said, the actress playing Hazel just absolutely breaks down, which you're not wanting to, But by this stage of the movie, if you're invested in the characters, you are not going to be able to hold back those tears because you've just lost an important character in this story, and you're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few really standout moments in the film, some great performances. I really did like the pain demands to be felt moment with Isaac destroying the trophies in the background. It's
Yeah.
like, yep, see, pain demands to be felt.
Yes.
I was like, it was a nice like bonding moment, but with a comical moment happening in the
Yes,
background.
yeah,
At
yeah.
first, I was like, I don't know whether this is appropriate, really,
Yeah,
first, but I kind of like it. And then I kind of want more of Isaac. Like, he was a great extra character to have around.
Yeah.
But he only has a few sequences though. I really enjoyed the entire Amsterdam trip, the Anne Frank house, that moment of getting up the stairs and having that first kiss. Really liked it. I just don't like the applause afterwards. That just takes me out of the moment, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I also like some of like the simpler bits where they're just sat like on the swing set that she had as a child.
Yes, yeah.
That she's not really using,
that
and
was great, yeah.
and then they joke about how they're going to sell it.
Yeah.
I like the moment where he's driving her back home and he's just like, yeah, I can't really drive very well.
Yeah.
And she makes a throwaway line on the plane about his driving.
It's driving. I was
It's
about
like,
to say that.
this is how
That
it
was
feels
great.
being driven by you.
Yeah.
There's so many little moments like that. But I really did enjoy the Amsterdam trip. I think that was the moment. I mean, she'd already fallen for him before, but when they got to Amsterdam, like the sparks were flying, the chemistry was there, and you can't help but fall for the two of them and wish them well. But
Yeah.
of course, the backdrop of the film, you know where it's going,
Yeah.
what's going to happen, that they're both facing it, but they're brave and they're together and they're strong together and they love each other, and it's all, again, it gets very soppy and overly melodramatic at times, but it doesn't do it to the like most cliched you'll have seen it before. So I really did quite like a lot of those scenes as well. Ian, would you recommend the film?
I do recommend A Fault in Our Stars. I know that there's probably going to be people out there who are just going to be like, oh, I'm not going to watch it. It's soppy. It's mushy. It's cliche. It's lovey-dovey, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I was exactly the same. That's exactly the same reasons why I didn't want to watch it. But also, I didn't want to watch it because I just felt it was going to hit in some parts and tug on some heartstrings that I was going to be a bubbling mess by the end of the movie. And I kudos to the director, kudos to the writer, kudos to the actors, kudos to the cinematographer and everybody who worked behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. You created a really great, heartfelt movie that if you're not interested in watching, then that's fine. But if you ever want to try to actually have conversations with people, these are the types of movies that you end up kind of watching because, not everybody will watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Piranha, and some of those crazy ass Italian horror movies that nobody ever talks about. People actually want to watch real, raw, emotional drama. Not all the time because it makes you fucking cry, but every now and again so you can feel a twinge.
Mind yourself, you're still alive. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be recommending The Fault in Our Stars. This was a really well-made, fantastically written and beautifully acted teen love story that is funny, heartbreaking and really entertaining, even though it will smash those heartstrings and leave you feeling weepy throughout. The acting and performances were great, and Shailene Woodley as Hazel was utterly fantastic. She made her character feel real, nuanced, and incredibly captivating, and was so likable that you quickly invest and care about her and her cancer battle as she finds love that she denied herself. The whole cast was great, but Shailene was exceptional and more than worth a watch for. I really liked the writing. It felt authentic and refreshing, and it didn't ever get too soppy or sentimental or overly cliched. For a 2+ hour film, it had a great pace, good, seamless edits, and a gentle soundtrack, or other than the Swedish hip hop. It's a real tearjerker. It hits you in the feels, and it works because of just how likable the leads are. So yeah, for me, this is worth a watch. One sick love story. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
And never deleting
Perhaps okay will be our always.